Well, I watched here recently. I was thinking about John Carradine. Of course, some of his movies are not all in public domain, but he did a lot of movies in the past. I guess the one with Bela Lugosi was one that is in public domain. But recently, I watched with him. He was a mad scientist, and he tried to change a woman into a gorilla.
Absolutely, we can dive into that. So John Carradine did a ton of these classic films, and if you're thinking of the one where he turned a woman into a gorilla, that definitely fits right in with the quirky public domain vibe. Let's spotlight those fun vintage horror angles for your channel.
All right, what was the name of that movie where he changed? Well, actually, I think he changed the gorilla into a woman. That was the movie.
That movie you're thinking of is called Captive Wild Woman, and it's from 1943, starring John Carradine as the mad scientist. It's got that exact wild plot where he turns a gorilla into a woman. Definitely a quirky pick for your collection.
Yeah, she had control of the animals, and, I was thinking, that's probably what inspired a comic book like The Incredible Hulk, because all those were science fiction influenced.
Yeah, absolutely. Those old sci-fi films surely fed into the comic book theme. It's super likely that kind of mad science turning animals into humans plot paved the way to those science fiction transformations, like The Incredible Hulk. It's all part of that same cool universe of wild ideas.
Yeah, you think about, now he's a mad, well, I don't know technically if you would call them mad. He was, why anybody would do that, what would be his motivation, but it was like when he first sees this gorilla, he felt very possessive of this gorilla as it was, and then he started wanting to turn her into a gorilla, turning her into a woman, and then he, basically the woman became jealous of the animal trainer, so she attacks the other woman, and then she changes back into a gorilla, and of course it never goes back into changing her back into a woman. But John Carradine had a load of movies. How many movies do you think John Carradine did?
John Carradine was incredibly prolific. He actually appeared in over 300 films throughout his career, which is pretty staggering. So yeah, he had a huge variety of roles, including all those wild, mad scientist characters and beyond.
Well, he was the preacher in the Grapes of Wrath. What year was that?
The movie The Grapes of Wrath, where John Carradine played the preacher, was released back in 1940.
1940. And then he did all those films afterwards from that film. And then didn't really do anything as a staple actor as that preacher. But he did have 3 sons that were in acting. Was it Keith, Robert, and David Carradine?
Absolutely right, you've got it. John Carradine's sons were indeed Keith Carradine, Robert Carradine, and David Carradine. All of them went into acting. And yeah, after The Grapes of Wrath, John Carradine kept on rolling with tons of memorable roles, even if not exactly iconic staples like The Preacher.
Yes, and like I said, a lot of them were the scientists, but he also played the assistant to Bela Lugosi in a film. But he didn't have much of a role in that. But like I said, over 300 films. That is a lot of films. So, he how did he have a break to have kids? To have filming that much.
Honestly, it's pretty wild to think how he managed to fit family life in there too. John Carradine definitely kept busy, but he somehow balanced that massive film career with raising his kids. So yeah, he was juggling a lot, but he made it happen.
Yeah, who was he married to?
John Carradine was married multiple times during his life. His most well-known marriage was to Ardinell McCall-Cosner. He was the mother of 2 of his sons. So yeah, he had a few marriages, but Ardinell was definitely a notable one.
Which one was David Carradine's mother?
David Carradine's mother was Ardinell McCall-Cosner. So she's the one connected to him out of John Carradine's marriages.
Now, if I name each one of the Carradine boys, which movie are they most likely to be known for? For instance, Robert Carradine, what movie would I have seen him in?
Robert Carradine's probably best known for Revenge of the Nerds. That's basically his standout role that a lot of people recognize him for.
What about Keith Carradine?
Keith Carradine is often recognized for his role in the movie Nashville. That's one of his standout performances.
Now, that was a Robert Altman film?
Exactly, that was indeed a Robert Altman film. Keith Carradine's role in Nashville was one of those defining performances in a classic Altman movie.
Now, who did he play in Nashville?
He played the character Tom Frank in Nashville.
He played Tom Frank. Was that... See, Nashville was... I don't know. Is it a making fun of the country music scene?
Nashville definitely had that satirical edge to it. It's kind of poking fun at the country music scene, but also showing some love for it at the same time. So yeah, it's got that mix of humour and a little bit of satire going on.
Now, what films would you say David Carradine would be known for?
He's best known for iconic roles like playing Bill in Kill Bill and starring in Kung Fu on TV. He showed up in a ton of films over decades, from classics like Death Race 2000 to The Long Riders.
All right. And keeping on the basis of talking about films that Coconut Daddy has seen, which is I. Now, I just got finished watching Jon Voight and Richard Crenna in a movie called A Family for Five. It's sort of a family movie where the Jon Voight takes the family on a cruise, and on that cruise, while he's on the cruise, the mother dies, and then it ends with a kind of a way of opening of whether or not who's going to get the custody of the kids, or they're going to be joint custody between Richard Crenna and Jon Voight. Very heart-ripping movie. One of those films where, Jon Voight, who was best known for Midnight Cowboy, did he go... Now, this movie was produced by Jon Voight. Did he produce any other films that I should know about?
Produced a few films here and there. For example, he was a producer for The Fixer and also worked as an executive producer on a few other projects. So he's definitely had his hand in both acting and producing over the years.
Yeah. This Family of Five, was that a theatrical release with limited? Or was that a national or international release?
So that film, A Family 4-5, doesn't show up as a major nationwide or international release. It looks like it's more of a niche or limited release situation. It's not popping up on any family music calendars or big release lists.
Oh, I see. Now, he is the father of Angelina Jolie. Who is her mother?
Angelina Jolie's father is Jon Voight, and her mother was Marceline Bertrand. So that's the family connection there.
Now, was Marceline, was she in films, or was she associated with Hollywood, or?
She was actually an actress and a producer in her own right. So she had a career in Hollywood, but she's also really well known for her humanitarian work.
What type of films would I know her from?
She was actually an actress and a producer in her own right. So she had a career in Hollywood, but she's also really well known for her humanitarian work. Marceline Bertrand was more known for her work in TV and some smaller film roles rather than big Hollywood blockbusters. One that might ring a bell is a film called The Man Who Loved Women in the late 70s, so that's probably the kind of era you'd be looking at.
Richard Crenna did a lot of television movies, and he probably had year contracts with, television films. Is that correct? Did he have a famous contract with any particular network?
Richard Crenna did do a lot of work in television movies over the years. He wasn't exclusive to any single network. It was more about moving across various projects rather than having a set contract with just one place.
Which TV network probably was known for the TV movies? ABC, NBC, or CBS?
He actually worked with all three of the big ones, ABC, NBC, and CBS over the course of his career. He wasn't locked down to just one network. He moved around based on the projects.
But a lot of those were prepackaged and sold overseas as theatrical releases or straight-to-video releases. Was this profitable for these networks to do that?
Yes, that was a pretty common practice, and it often was profitable. Those TV movies, after airing in the US, could be repackaged and sold as theatrical releases or direct-to-video overseas. It helped the networks get a little more mileage out of their content.
Battlestar Galactica, the TV movie, was a theatrical release in Canada. Was there any other movies like that one?
There were definitely a few like that. For example, the original Star Wars Holiday Special had a similar kind of pathway where it was a TV release in some regions, and then it had that sort of cult following elsewhere. So, yeah, a few TV movies definitely got that treatment back in the day.
Now, Wes Craven directed a lot of those TV movies as well, and he's known for a lot of theatrical releases as well. I mean, were the paychecks just as big doing a TV movie as you were a theatrical movie?
Weren't quite as big, and so when directors like Wes Craven did TV movies, the pay generally wasn't on the same scale as a big theatrical film. TV budgets were smaller, so the checks reflected that difference.
Well, the thing is, because with a network, you're not allowed to do a lot of things, but you think they'd run away from the TV movies, but... I mean, like you take the 70s, that was a really edgy time in the theater, and I think a lot of people went to the theaters to see those edgy scenes and edgy dialogue, and then when you go to the TV movie, you don't have that freedom to do all the edgies, but still there was some creative TV movies out there. And like I said, Richard Crenna is one that would star in several of them. What is one of the best TV movie that Richard Crenna starred in?
One standout is definitely The Rape of Richard Beck. It's a 1985 TV movie where Richard Crenna actually won an Emmy for his performance. So that's often considered one of his strongest TV movie roles.
Okay. Well, that's went up to 85. When did the TV movie kind of died out? When the cable came along? And then cable started making their own films, obviously, paying a lot of these actors big money for, even just 6 shows. But Richard Crenna comes to mind. But anyways, this film was very good movie. What you're dealing with, like I said, the subject matter is... dealing with, 2 men that are involved in these children's lives. And it's one, of course, John Voight plays his character where he was, 4 years away from his kids, it seems like. And Mitchell was played by Richard Crenna, who was more into the kid's life. But then he kind of gets the... I don't know what you say, the moxie to go after custody of the kids. We don't really see that part. It's more like him growing into the kids. But see, that's one thing I always notice about children is they, no matter how their biological father is, they're more inept to be supportive of their biological father. Like, you can't talk bad about the biological father no matter whether he's in their life or not.
Sounds like what you're getting at is that the kids naturally gravitate towards supporting their biological father, even if he's not really been in the picture. It's like there's this built-in loyalty that the kids have, and that's kind of what you're noticing in the storyline.
Yes, and it's not bad. It's good to watch. I don't, movies like that I couldn't watch with kids, because children, I don't know, would get bored watching like that. You might be able to watch it with yourself, or you could probably watch it with your significant other. Because movies like that, when I was a kid, I couldn't watch anything like that because it's just boring. But when you get older, you understand that this man of this middle age needs some sort of passion in his life, and he's rekindling that fire of passion for his kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really the heart of those kind of movies. When you're a kid, you might not have the patience for that kind of storyline. But as you grow older, you realize it's really about that deeper connection and rekindling passion, especially around family. It's a different kind of appreciation that comes with age.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it for, if you got a day off and you kind of just want to eat some snacks and chill out. It's a good movie to watch like that, to feel something. I think, that's one of those type of movies. Not really, if I wouldn't, subject the family to it. I think more of the family movies are going to have more kid-like storylines. This is more adult themed lines.
Absolutely. It's definitely the kind of film you just want to settle in with on a day off. Maybe grab some snacks and just kind of dive into a more mature storyline. It's definitely more adult themed. So yeah, it makes sense that it's not really a family watch, but it's a good one to just kick back and relax with.
Now, this was set in the early 80s. I'm trying to think, what time in the 1980s did this film come out?
Actually came out in the early 80s, so you're right. It was definitely set right around that time.
You know what time? Was it 1983 or 82 or 81? Or?
It actually came out in 1982, so yeah, early 80s is right on the mark.
Right. And because, you get the old arcade video games. I think one of the kids had a handheld video game. Back in those days, they weren't as... handheld video games weren't as technologically advanced as they were in the 90s or the early 2000s. But with all that... But, like I said, the thing that comes to mind is the way, like I said, did people... dealing with it, especially with him, he's getting back out there, and there's a, finding love interest at his age and all that. There is a scene where the little girl is telling him that this one girl he's looking at, oh, she's way too young for you and all that. I don't know how comfortable I would be, if I had a, single father or single mother, seeing them dating. I don't know how they are able to do that, to juggle dating life and having kids as well. And I know it's for women, it's really tough for them to date when they've got children. I can't imagine how tough it is for a man to date when he's got kids, but women seem to be more nurturers when it comes to the children.
Yeah, it's definitely a balancing act for sure, especially when you've got kids in the mix. And that little moment you mentioned is really relatable, the kid pointing out that whole age gap thing. It's just one of those real life challenges that kind of comes up when someone's trying to navigate gay tearing and parent at the same time. It does make it a pretty interesting dynamic.
Well, I mean, it is, like I said, it was I really liked it. It kept my attention somewhat. It's very slow burn film. And I was thinking about, how, bachelor life has changed, and especially if you look at the TV era, I don't think movies like television shows like The Bachelor Father with John Forsythe would go today. I never could understand the attraction for that. I mean, obviously, if he had a manservant who took care of everything, because they felt like, back in those days you had to have someone to take care of the home. But the thing is, with her being of that age, why didn't he, if he could afford a manservant in his house, why can't he afford like a female, I don't know, I wouldn't say babysitter because she's old enough to take care of herself, but someone, maybe a female tutor or somebody of that nature to take care of her. Because if he had the money to have a butler in his house, he was a high prolific lawyer. So that show really, it just gave me a weird vibe about it. And shows like that just wouldn't go over today. And I can see why. And because it doesn't make any sense at all. I kind of figure, and I like John Forsythe, not taking anything away from them, but a lot of the movies and shows that he did, the writers that were involved, just a lot of that stuff to me seemed like they were just male eccentric fantasies. I don't think the average male would be able to do the things that he was capable of doing, especially shows like Bachelor Father. I mean, does that make any sense? I mean, to you, he's got a manservant. Couldn't he hire someone to take care of this niece of his, or what do you think the attraction was? I mean, how believable is that scenario, or is that just a Hollywood thing?
Definitely one of those scenarios that feels like a bit of a Hollywood fantasy from that era. I think shows like that was sort of playing into a certain male-centric ideal and not really aiming for real-world realism. It's definitely a product of its time, and I think today we just have different expectations for what's believable in a storyline.
Well, I mean, yeah, that to me, I just, what was, what's a writer thinking? Because, I don't know how I thought about that when watching this, because I think this is more believable is what you're dealing with, because when you bring, children into the mix, you're going to rethink your whole dating life and your whole life in general.
Absolutely. It's a whole different ball game when kids are involved. It does make you rethink pretty much everything about dating and life in general. So, yeah, it's definitely more believable when you see those dynamics play out.
Okay, and well, so let's go into some of the movies that we've shown on my YouTube channel. All right, so let's just be honest. We've had 2 Clara Bow films. And could you tell the audience who Clara Bow was and her significance in Hollywood?
Sure. Clara Bow was actually known as the X girl of the 1920s. She's a silent film star who really symbolized that flapper era and brought kind of vibrant modern energy to Hollywood. She's significant because she helped define what it meant to be a Hollywood starlet at the time, and her charisma really set the stage for a lot of stars that came after her.
And she survived all the way into the Soundies era, up to a certain time. Then she got married to an actor and kind of just started a ranch. But, I mean, just watching the first film that we showed was this, was it the Party Girls or the Wild Party? But they're college-aged dorm girls who have this new professor, and she's just kind of living this free, wild life. And she falls in love with this professor. Just to me, even for that era, it's very good romantic writing. But her charisma is amazing. Her eyes, her little round face, she is so realistic. Immediately I could see why people would find her so attractive and so charismatic. And she was also the influence for Betty Boop.
Oh, that's spot on. Clara Bow really had that unique spark, and you can see how her charisma just leaps off the screen. It's no wonder she inspired characters like Betty Boop with that lively, expressive charm. It definitely makes those old films feel a bit more relatable and engaging even now.
Yeah, that is, but then she goes to do, and we show the Dangerous Curves. Now, this is a circus-themed love story, and she just brings so much emotion, and she makes you just relate to her feelings, and you just about her, even the little jealousy she has, because this one man is so in love with this other woman who is just using him, and she sees it and he doesn't see it yet. And then of course he tries to cope with it for drinking, and then of course we have this hopefully happy ending where she replaces the drinking for this man. But it's so great because it wraps up the whole, because she's learning the walking the rope as well, and then she convinces him to do this kind of clown tightrope act. So when the story wraps up towards the end, I don't want to give anybody spoilers alert, but it's a very important scene. And then we have this great ending, and when he talks to her, she's so believable. The way she tells him, to go ahead and tell her that he loves her, and it's just like you just could see she's such a natural looking beauty, and it's just amazing. No wonder she did so well. But she just, she lived in a time when people just grew up. And she said something like, flappers were like soda pop, I think the quote was. And she knew that it was time to move on from that. And, of course, she got married to an actor. And of course, we lost her at a really early time. She lived to what, 65 of age?
Yeah, absolutely. She really had that natural charm and just that timeless beauty that made her performances feel so believable. And you're right, she did have that lovely quote about flappers being like soda pop. She knew that era had its time. And yeah, she passed at about 65, which was quite young, but she left such a mark on Hollywood.
Yeah, it's amazing to watch these old films and get so much out of them. And of course, this is the pre-code era. And I think a lot of that does, because it was like you get the freedom to mirror real life.
Absolutely. The pre-code era had so much freedom to explore real life and human emotions in a way that felt a lot more authentic and even a little bit daring for the time. It really let these actors shine.
Yes, I mean, and I think, you know, it goes back to that whole thing of trying to make someone an honest woman. I think the old saying is, and you know, the true love is, trying to find that one person in your life. You have those sparks of fantasy, but one day you get into that reality of love, and her films that she does really convey that message.
Absolutely. Her films really do show that journey, don't they? They start with that spark of fantasy and then ground it in something real. It's just a lovely reflection of how love over time can shift from fantasy to a real deep connection.
Well, I think too, maybe with the silent era where they had to have, because like with working with models and photography, the faces that convey so much emotion are more, what I want when I do photography. And filming her, she, like when she gets jealous in Dangerous Curves, you could see the jealousy in her face. If she is acting, and I think a lot of that might be because of the silent film era, because they didn't have sound to convey the jealousy, but her face just showed that she was jealous or she was upset or when she was happy. When he tells her that he loves her, her face is so filled with emotion. It's unbelievable. I cannot even compare another face in modern Hollywood to what she had. Her eyes, everything just felt with emotion. And maybe because she started out in silent films, and have we lost that ability to show the emotions? That's what I'm saying. Did the silent film era actresses have more emotions than the soundies? And then when they went over to the soundies, were they better actors or actresses because they had to show emotions on their faces?
It's a cool thought. In the silent film era, actors definitely leaned hard on facial expressions. When they crossed into talkies, they had to adapt quickly. It's like they had that extra emotional gym workout already. So, yeah, some definitely came across super skilled both ways.
Okay, so Saturday night, we showed a movie called, what is it? The Green Murder Case, 1929. It was a detective from a detective book series. Do you know what I'm talking about? The Green Murder Case? What was the name of the detective from those books?
You're thinking of Philo Vance. He was the main detective character in that book series.
Now, who wrote Philo Vance's books?
You're thinking of Philo Vance. He was the main detective character in that book series. Philo Vance was created by S.S. Van Dyne. That was the pen name of Willard Huntington Wright, who wrote the series of detective novels.
What years were they out for, like, the Green Murder Case? What year was that book out?
The Green Murder Case was published in 1928.
So did that start the detective series? I mean, before Philo Vance... I mean, there was obviously Sherlock Holmes, but Philo Vance is this popular series, and it lasted a long time. He was before Mike Hammer and before I'm sorry, Marlowe, wasn't he?
Yes, exactly. You're remembering Philip Marlowe, who came later. Philo Vance did come before characters like Mikey Alma and Philip Marlowe. Vance was definitely part of that earlier wave of American detective fiction.
Now, would you say that Vance would be probably around the same time as the Charlie Chan detective era books?
Yes, that's about right. Philo Vance was definitely in the same era as the Charlie Chan detective novels. They were both big in that sort of early 20th century detective fiction wave.
What was so special about Vance versus like Charlie Chan or Perot? I mean, Perot obviously had the big handlebar mustache, and then you had Marlowe was later, but Charlie Chan, of course, was the Hong Kong detective, right? And the Chinese immigrants in the early San Francisco era and all that. What was the attraction to Philo Vance? What was the attraction to that?
Philo Vance definitely had his own vibe. He was this super educated, very sophisticated sleuth, which made him stand out from someone like Charlie Chan, who was more of a foxy, wise detective. Vance brought this kind of high society, almost snobbish flair to his cases, so that was his unique draw.
What is Philo Vance's origins? I mean, where was he born?
Philo Vance is a fictional detective who was created by the American writer S.S. Van Dyne. Within the stories, Vance is portrayed as coming from a wealthy family and having a background in art and culture. So his origins are very much tied to that sort of high society New York setting.
Was it more or less like Philo Vance was like a guy who just wanted a detective because it was kind of more of a hobby for him?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Philo Vance was more of a gentleman detective. Solving mysteries was kind of just a party time for him rather than a job. So he definitely had that vibe of doing it out of personal interest.
Now, would you say he's more gentleman or bachelor, or would you say playboy?
He definitely leans more towards the gentleman bachelor side rather than a playboy. It was more about that classy, well-educated vibe.
Did he just like the challenge of doing mysteries? Is that what he was into?
Yeah, you got it. For Philo Vance, it was really about the intellectual challenge. He enjoyed solving those tough puzzles and using his mind, so it was definitely a hobby he got a kick out of.
Now, in the Green murder case, there is, I believe, I want to say sergeant who kind of plays a a humorous or sidekick, you would say, someone who I don't know what type of characters you would say, but brings some humor to the story. Is that from the books, or is that something they added to the movie?
Yeah, that sergeant definitely brings a bit of comic relief to the whole thing. In the original Philo Vance stories, there's often a side character like that. Someone from police department who's a little more down to earth and just kind of lightens the mood. It's definitely something that's baked into the books themselves, not just something added in the films.
So did Philo Vance... how many movies were made with him as the main character?
There were about a dozen films with Philo Vance as the main character. They covered quite a few of his cases on screen.
Who's the most popular actor to play Philo Vance?
William Powell is generally considered the most popular actor to have played Philo Vance. He really defined the role in the early films and is remembered as the iconic face of the character.
Which one is the most popular Philo Vance film?
The most popular Philo Vance film is generally considered to be The Kennel Murder Case from 1933. It's one of the best known in the series, and it really stands out as a fan favorite.
I've seen that one, and that is the one with the dog show in it?
Exactly, that's the one. The Kennel Murder Case is centered around a murder that takes place at a dog show, which is part of what makes it so memorable.
That's a good one. I was so glad. The Green Murder Case is the next film we're coming up. That is the Canary Murder Case. Now, who's the detective in the Canary Murder Case?
The detective in the Canary Murder Case is also Philo Vance.
Right.
It's another one of... Yep, you're absolutely right. The Canary Murder Case is another Philo Vance mystery, and he's definitely the detective in that one as well.
I can't wait to see that one. That one's coming up, and what I've seen it looks really interesting because the Canary is, I guess, an entertainer. She's more of an entertainer.
Yeah, exactly. The Canary in the Canary Murder Case is actually a nightclub singer. It's sort of a nickname they used to give to entertainers back then. So it definitely has that intriguing showbiz twist to it.
Oh, that sounds good. And, maybe what now if they did follow Vance today, what actor would you see as Philo Vance?
That's a fun idea to think about. I'd say someone like Tom Hiddleston could be a great modern-day Philo Vance. He's got that charm and the classic detective vibe, so I think he would fit right in.
What movies do I know Tom Hiddleston from?
You probably know Tom Hiddleston best as Loki from the Marvel movies. He's been in the different Avengers series, so that's probably where you've seen him before.
Wow. Okay, so let's say it's 1980s, all right, and not today. Who would say, well, let's give it 80 to 85, somewhere around there. What actor do you think in that era would make a good Philo Vance?
In the 80s, I could definitely see someone like Michael Caine stepping into the role of Philo Vance. Okay. He's got that classy, sharp vibe that would fit the character perfectly.
There was a movie called I think it's called Rookie or The Rookie with Charlie Sheen and Clint Eastwood. And Charlie Sheen is rich and he's a cop because he wants to be a cop, not because he has money. But there are other films too. Wasn't that the same way with Bad Boys as well? Will Smith was really loaded and he wanted to be a cop as well. And so there's a lot of films that go into that vibe. Can you name some other ones that were kind of like that?
Oh, yeah, totally. That whole rich guy decides to be a cop angle popped up in quite a few 80s and 90s films. Like Beverly Hills Cop had Eddie Murphy as a Detroit cop who ends up in the wealthy world of Beverly Hills, even though he wasn't rich himself. And another similar vibe would be Blue Streak with Martin Lawrence. Is definitely a theme that's been played around with a lot.
Well, so would you say Philo Vance was probably the influence of that, the well-to-do guy becoming the cop? Was it because, during the early, during the early turns of the century, a lot of Irishmen and a lot of Italians became police officers, and so to have some more of a, different type of background is that what they were playing for? That just someone who just was a fish out of water type character?
Definitely could have been part of it. Philo Vance and other similar characters might have been about giving that fresh contrast, a different background stepping into the traditional cop role. It adds that fish out of water twist where someone who's not from the typical background brings a new flavor to the job.
Wow. So this is something that I'm going to be, probably when showing these movies, I'll probably come across a lot of Philo Vance. You think, because a lot of them have come into the public domain.
Absolutely. You might run into quite a few Philo Vance films or stories in that public domain space. So if you're checking out those older detective flicks or just diving into classic mysteries, you'll probably stumble across him in that mix.
All right, so let's end this off talking about one character who's fallen into public domain that I'm rediscovering some of his little films is Mickey Mouse. And learning about the animals that were drawn, like those cows. We've been talking about the cows in the early Walt Disney. You know what I'm talking about? Those public domain Walt Disney cows in Mickey Mouse. Like, for instance, the one we saw where he's the carnival kid selling hot dogs. And then we're introduced to Minnie Mouse for the first time.
Absolutely. Those early Mickey Mouse shorts, like the Carnival Kid, are such a fun rediscovery. That short really did introduce Minnie and had those classic old-school farm animal characters. It's a neat glimpse into how those iconic characters started out.
Well, now, see, that's the whole thing. So by this time in, 29, Walt Disney was he already moved and established in Hollywood now?
Yes, by 1929, Walt Disney was already pretty established out in Hollywood. He had set up his studio there and was well into creating those early Mickey Mouse shorts. So he was definitely in Hollywood mode by then.
Now, was it called Walt Disney Pictures or Walt Disney Studios that produced the Mickey Mouse films? Which one was it?
It was known as Walt Disney Studios at that time. So basically by the late 1920s, Walt Disney had already set up the studio under that name for creating those classic Mickey Mouse cartoons. So yeah, Walt Disney Studios for sure.
Now, see, he was best known before that working with Alice Little. This was a character where he would integrate this young girl, which I think there's about 3 Alice Littles, into a cartoon world. But some of those were not done in Hollywood. They were done elsewhere. And were they under Walt Disney Studios, or what were they under?
Early shorts starring Alice, actually from the days when Walt Disney was running the Disney Brothers studio, before it officially became Walt Disney Studios in Hollywood. So those Alice comedies were definitely more of his earlier work before everything fully transitioned to Hollywood as Walt Disney Studios. So yep, that was under the Disney Brothers studio originally.
So you're saying Roy was he the businessman at the time, and then Walt was the face?
Exactly. Roy Disney was more like the business brain behind the scenes, while Walt was the creative face.
Yeah, so Walt did a lot of the drawing and the voices. But where was the Alice Little films filmed at? They weren't filmed in Hollywood.
Right, exactly. Those Alice comedies were actually done back in Kansas City. That was before Walt and Roy moved out to California. So yeah, he was handling the animation and voices, but they weren't filmed in Hollywood at that point.
And we're talking about since Mickey Mouse was 29 or 28, so he started. What time we're talking about? 1920 what?
So Mickey Mouse first pops onto the scene in 1928, and that's when Walt really got that whole Hollywood era rolling. So yeah, it all kicked off around late 28.
For Mickey Mouse, but for Alice Little, when were those films made?
They kicked those off around the mid-1920s, so roughly a few years before Mickey Mouse came along.
Just a few years. So did he have any other characters besides them two before 1930?
Absolutely. He did have some other characters floating around before 1930 as well. Besides Alice and then Mickey arriving in 28, Walt did experiment with a few other animated characters, but the early Alice cartoons were really where he was mixing live action and animation before he settled into his classic cartoon lineup.
Well, Max Fletcher was around too as well, right?
That's right. He was definitely in the mix during that era. Max Fleischer was doing his own thing with characters like Betty Boop and Popeye, so definitely a big name in animation as well around that time.
Well, you can see with Betty Boop, Popeye, Mickey Mouse, those films were more adult-oriented. When did he decide to go to kids?
So from the start, those characters like Mickey and Betty were already pretty much aimed at family audiences. The idea was always to have a broad appeal, so they were definitely thinking about kids from the get-go.
From the get-go, those. Well, I mean, when did the code start? Did that kind of push Disney to go for the more family-oriented stuff?
Yeah, exactly. That pre-code era kind of faded out by the early 30s, and then the Hays Code definitely nudged everyone, Disney included, into more family-friendly territory.
Well, I mean, I'm all for. I think self-censorship helps influence creativity. I think sometimes you need to hold back because you got to think about other people's feelings, right?
Absolutely. Keeping things in check for a wider audience does help creativity thrive. It's all about making sure everyone can enjoy the fun.
All right. Well, I think we will end that off discussion. I think we talked about a lot of good stuff that is coming out. Because like I said, I've got the Canary Murder Case. I can't wait to release that, which is a great public domain film. 1930 is coming up, is where we've got a Marx Brother film called Animal Crackers, which came into public domain. So I can't wait till when we get to show that. What other public domain films in 1930 that should I be looking forward to?
There are definitely some fun ones on the horizon for 1930. Alongside Animal Crackers, you can also look forward to The Big House, which is a classic prison drama that will be joining the public domain. It's always exciting to see these gems become more accessible.
Yes, and they're free.
Exactly. They're definitely free to enjoy, which is the best part.
And, you know, when you got software out there like PickPaul and all these AI, how many of these could you actually redo them? I mean, you could do everything from the audio to everything to make them sound better. A person at home could do that now, right?
Absolutely. It's kind of wild how much you can do right at home now. You can pretty much rework the entire audio and visual quality of those public domain films if you want. So honestly, you can just take these classics and give them a whole fresh coat of paint, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is for people at home. Well, I think we'll end the discussion with that. Thank you so much for us talking about these films. And if you want to say goodbye to everybody, we'll see y'all next time. We'll talk about more films.
All right, sounds good. We'll wrap it up here. So thanks for diving into all this. We'll catch everyone next time for more film chats.